Little did I know that while standing out in front of the Newtown Library on a Friday afternoon in March, that all these months later, I would be leading Zoom High Holiday services. On that same day, I had no way of knowing that this week, nearly 30 million people in this world have been affected by COVID-19. And almost 20 million have recovered. And over 900,000, inching towards 1 million people, will have lost their lives due to complications of COVID-19. And those numbers continue to grow. Israel is in the midst of a three-week lockdown. Never did I think we would be living in a time of societal upheaval where it can be dangerous to your health to go out for a late night run to the store for milk and your favorite ice cream. All of us have experienced significant moments in our lives. All of us have experienced different societal events, whether it be war, economic hardship, catastrophic storms as we are witnessing even today in the Gulf of Mexico, or horrific firestorms, forest fires, as we are seeing out in the West, or terror attacks. As horrific as 9/11 was, we saw images of hope and a quick recovery. And less than 20 years later, a new building towers over Lower Manhattan, where the World Trade Center once stood. People lost loved ones. Lives were fractured and torn apart in those fateful moments. And they created a new normal. Superstorm Sandy caused great destruction, as hurricanes do. And in its aftermath, people created a new normal and returned to living. And even the Jewish people, when faced with the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem and the upheaval of their lives, which sent them into exile, they asked in Lamentations, Ki gadol kayam shavarech mi yaparei lach. For your ruin is vast as the sea. Who can heal you? In our moment of upheaval and uncertainty, we don't even know when we will be able to gather again in small groups, let alone large ones. When we will be able to eat dinner comfortably and safely in a restaurant with friends again. When will college students be able to do that which they're supposed to do? Study hard in classrooms with teachers present and go out to bars to celebrate their successes. We have major league sports playing games, but when will we be able to attend a baseball game again? When will face masks become a fashion accessory, not a health solution? Every year I read and I study the Unatana Tokef prayer, a centerpiece to our high holiday services. And for much of my life, I have related to this prayer on an intellectual level, knowing that this coming year people will live and people will die. People will get cancer and lose their jobs, and we will be subjected to catastrophic natural disasters. But people will also find a healing in life, and they will find life. People will get great jobs and will not suffer from the devastating effects of a hurricane or a forest fire. Mi yechiyeh u'mi yamut, who will live and who will die. Mi v'kitzo u'mi lo v'kitzo, who will have fullness of years and who will not. Who will rest and who will wander. Who will be impoverished and who will be enriched. And who will be humbled and who will be exalted. Those questions have taken a very emotional meaning for me this year. As a community, we have suffered from the loss of life because of COVID-19. As a community, we have suffered from the loss of income because there are those without jobs. And we have suffered from those who have been humbled and those who have been enriched as well. On Rosh Hashanah it is written, and on Yom Kippur it is sealed. How much uncertainty can we take and not be lost? In a book by Rabbi Lawrence Hoffman, Who by Fire and Who by Water, Rabbi David Teutsch wrote, In our everyday lives, we live with an illusion of control. We guard our health by eating well, exercising, getting regular checkups. We get ahead professionally by working hard and building effective relationships. And at the liturgical moment of Unatana Tokef, we are forced to admit how profoundly our lives can be altered by random occurrences over which we have no control. A brain hemorrhage or heart attack can come out of nowhere. A drunk driver can cripple or kill. An organization's sudden economic reversal can unexpectedly result in layoffs or firings. A competent person can be unable to find work. A trusted marriage can collapse. How do we regain even a modicum of control in our lives? How do we create a new normal for ourselves? Our Mahzor begins to answer that question. With a big voice and in all caps, we call out together, Ut teshuva, ut tefillah, ma'a ut tzedakah, ma'avirin et roah hagzeirah. But repentance, prayer, and deeds of loving kindness can remove the severity of the decree. Prayer, repentance, and deeds of loving kindness will not eliminate COVID-19, but it will provide a roadmap by which we will navigate our way through these times of uncertainty and return us to moments of normalcy, where we will rebuild our world through compassion and love, even as our scientists, health professionals, and communal leadership continue to work towards finding a treatment and ways to eliminate the severity of this physical disease. As our liturgy reminds us, when we turn from the uncertainty of this time and put our trust in the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy Blessed One, in our own hearts to persevere, and when we act with tzadikut, with righteousness, and we perform acts of loving kindness, it brings the emotional and spiritual healing we need, even if we can't yet physically fight this disease with a vaccine and treatment. Ut teshuvah is making a turn in another direction. It is finding our way back to a path enabling us to recognize the challenges and obstacles, but working to overcome them. If you remember the people who went out on their balconies nightly to sing and to clap, they were honoring frontline workers, healthcare workers, and grocery store workers, and first responders. They recognized that people were doing their best to help relieve the suffering and bring healing and health. Utfilah, prayer, is about centering oneself and not only finding a way to be in meditative and contemplative relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, but to be in that same relationship with oneself. Each of us has ways to make that happen. For some, it was deeply digging deeper into their hobbies. For others, it was creating a sourdough starter to bake homemade bread. And still others, like me, it was running 245 miles between Memorial Day and Labor Day, just to anchor myself in a way that helped me feel better about the challenges we all face. Utzedakah, not charity, but acts of righteousness, acts of loving kindness which not only help others, but it boosts our own feelings of love and compassion for each other. When our gala was canceled because of COVID-19, Sharon Segara beautifully organized the flower plant delivery. And so many people took up the challenge and delivered those plants to other members. I can't tell you how many expressions of gratitude and joy we received from all of you for such a small act of kindness. We are not the only ones. If you scroll through the internet, you will find instances of these mother groups who would, surreptitiously drop a bottle of wine at someone's house, ring the bell, and leave before the person could even get to the door. They were just leaving some cheer for another. And if this coronavirus pandemic has taught us anything, it is that when the world is in upheaval and we see the vast ruin, we can find spiritual and emotional healing through ahava and kavod, through love and respect. On the first page of the USC Shoah Foundation website, they are sharing stories of liberation. An Auschwitz survivor, Paula Lebovich, remembers her 11-year-old self being hugged by a Russian soldier with tears flowing down his face. You mean somebody out there cares about me, she wondered, as he tried to offer her food. Or Gerda Klein, who was 21 when liberated during a forced march in Czechoslovakia, remembers how an American intelligence officer held open a door for her and called her a lady. He held the door open for me and let me precede him and restored to me my humanity again, she said in her testimony to the USC Shoah Foundation. Speaking of the officer, and he has been holding that door ever since. For me, for 50 years, my husband. Or today, COVID-19 survivors who share their stories, not only about their battle with the virus, but also the warmth and care provided by doctors and nurses. One woman, Judith, who was 80 years old and was in the hospital during the early part of the year with a broken hip and femur. As she was in the hospital, she spiked a fever and spent time on a ventilator. She was discharged to a nursing home, and she remarked, at Mount Sinai, every single doctor, nurse, nurse's aide, housekeeping staff, they were the most wonderful creatures God had ever created. I had the most fabulous care. I couldn't have been treated better if I were a precious jewel. I never felt like just another patient in bed number 17. At the end of the story, she was finally discharged home to be reunited with her elderly cat. She doesn't go out unless she has to work with her physical therapist outdoors. Ahava and kavod helps to make the difference between living and dying, being humiliated or lifted up. Every year the shofar is sounded, and we are awakened to the possibilities that in a new year we have new possibilities. We have new opportunities. In a new year we can set new goals for ourselves. At the end of the Amidah we sing Hayom. On this day, God gives us strength, God blesses us, God helps us to grow, to be mindful, to hear our plea, and to support us in our time of need with God's strengths. In other words, what was the status quo is no longer, because we can grow and become more than we are today. Our liturgy is reminding us that one day our scientists and our healthcare workers will find a treatment and vaccination for this disease, and we will enter a new normal as we have always done. But that new normal does not have to be what it was. It can be something better. We can, when we fill our world with love and with respect for one another, we can hold on to the best elements of our world and let everything else go and create a world as our liturgy describes on page 336 in our Mahzor. Bring us closer to your service, God, so that we may be well and so that we may be spiritually alive all of the days of our lives as we are on this day. May righteousness, blessing, mercy, life, and peace be ever granted to us and to the entire household of Israel. Praised are you, God, who is the source of peace. Lishana Torah.